With a size 2 Allen key, remove the safety button and screw from the side of the housing. Using a Phillips screwdriver, begin to loosen the gun housing screws halfway out of the gun housing. Now that the gun housing screws have been loosened to a medium position, use a rubber mallet and begin tapping on the screws. Using a Phillips screwdriver, completely remove the screws from the side of the gun. Now that the gun's been flipped over, you can continue to completely remove the compressed screws from the side of the gun using a pair of needle nose pliers. To disconnect the water line from the water shroud, simply press in on the black quick connect on the shroud while pulling on the line. Now that the line's been disconnected, you can continue to remove the water shroud by turning it counterclockwise until the bare nozzle is exposed. Disconnect the water line by simply pressing in on the quick connect while pulling on the clear hose. To remove the nozzle holder, take a pair of channel locks or an adjustable wrench and begin turning the nozzle holder counterclockwise until it's completely removed. To separate the top of the gun housing from the gun handle, gently take a flathead screwdriver and press up on the inside of the gun housing so it disconnects from the handle. Remove the trigger by sliding it left or right out of its position, following the removal of the pneumatic valve. Take your thumbs and press it out of the gun housing. Now that the pneumatic valve has been removed from its position, we can disconnect the twin lines by pressing in on the quick connects and pulling on the hoses at the same time. Slide the top of the gun housing off of the abrasive hose. Carefully using a blade or a pair of scissors, begin to cut the gray tape off the end of the hose. Remove the female quick connect off the opposite end of the abrasive hose by using a Phillips screwdriver or a Phillips drill bit. Now that the 6 screws have been removed from the female quick connect, twist the quick connect counterclockwise until it's completely removed from the abrasive hose. Now again, carefully using a blade or scissors, Cut the remaining tape from the end of the abrasive hose. Now that the gun has been completely disassembled and removed from the abrasive hose, take the end of the hose and put it into a vise or use a clamp to hold onto the hose. If you have an extra person to give you a hand by holding the hose, that'll make things a lot easier as well. Now that our hose is stretched out and clamped in, we can begin pulling on the twin hose as well as the water line to completely remove it from the abrasive hose. Now we can begin replacing our old abrasive hose with the new one. Repeat the process of putting the end of the abrasive hose into a vise or clamping it down. Begin pulling the protective sheath back over the abrasive hose. Again, carefully using a pair of scissors, cut an opening into the end of the protective sheath and begin feeding the twin hoses through. Continue to feed the twin hoses through the protective sheath until it can no longer go any further. Following the same process as the red and black twin hoses, begin to do the same thing with the clear water line. Now that we've fed all three lines as far as they can go through the protective sheath, begin pushing the protective sheath on the opposite end all the way forward so we can access the three lines. Once we've accessed those three lines, pull them all the way through until they're completely stretched out. Now that all of our lines are put back in place and in position, we can begin rebuilding the gun. Now, using some electrical tape, tape off the end of the protective sheath to the abrasive hose. Reconnect both red and black twin lines to the gun valve by simply taking both hoses and pressing them firmly in place. The red air line will go to the top of the valve and the black air line will go to the bottom. Slide the trigger back into position, making sure that it's making contact with the pin on the pneumatic valve. Now we can go ahead and put the top of the gun housing back over the gun handle. Firmly press both compressed screws into the gun housing. Insert the remaining 2 gun housing screws and use a Phillips screwdriver to tighten them halfway into position. Tighten the safety button and screw back onto the side of the gun housing using the size 2 Allen key. Making sure that about ½ inch of the abrasive hose is sticking out of the gun housing, begin hand tightening the nozzle holder into the abrasive hose. Finish tightening the nozzle holder by using a pair of channel locks or an adjustable wrench. Once the nozzle holder is completely in position, pull on the abrasive hose until the nozzle holder is flush with the gun housing. Again, using a Phillips screwdriver, finish tightening the compressed screws on the side of the gun. Reinsert the tungsten nozzle into the gun, making sure that the longer end goes in first, then reattach the water shroud by turning it clockwise. On the opposite end of the hose, finish taping off the protective sheath using the electrical tape. Reattach the female quick connect to the abrasive hose by firmly twisting it to the right until the hose is completely inserted into the quick connect. The final steps to this process is screwing back in the 6 screws that go into the quick connect.